The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Hamer. I've spoken with many of you over the course of the past couple of weeks, and I'm really excited to see you here online. We really appreciate your taking time out of your evening to join us for this information session. As a professional in both graphic and web design fields for over 15 years in both the freelance and agency capacity, as well as teaching, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have during and following our webinar tonight. Our web and graphic design certificates are non-credit continuing education programs that are offered through SMU's Continuing and Professional Education Department, along with a variety of other career-enhancing programs, including paralegal studies and financial planning. SMU is proud to serve the community from our Dallas and Plano campuses, and we're committed to serving the citizens of Texas through our academic excellence and outreach. Our web and graphic design programs consist of a combination of in-class, hands-on, experiential learning in a computer lab environment and online synchronous instructor-led classes. And our instructors are all very experienced professionals who are currently practicing in their fields, which is exciting and allows their real-world experience to be introduced into the classroom, ensuring that your learning is informative and engaging. We offer at a minimum 2 sessions of each class 3 times per year, which allows most of our students to complete the full certificate in approximately 9 to 12 months. At SMU, we're very committed to offering a high level of educational experience you expect. During this webinar, we'll tell you more about the web and graphic design industries, career opportunities, and all about our program. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to our presenter this evening, John Horn. Since entering the field in 1997, John has built more than 50 websites for businesses and nonprofit organizations, and he has managed the production and design of dozens of printed pieces totaling well over 1 million units. I'd like to introduce you to John.
Thanks, Michelle, and thank you to everyone who's joined tonight. Looks like we've got a nice group of attendees here. As Michelle said, I'm going to take you through some information about both the programs offered here at SMU, but also talk to you a little bit about the web and graphic design industries and kind of the role that earning a certificate from SMU can play in your careers. So in our information session, we'll try to answer 2 questions for you. Why earn a certificate? What's this going to do for you? What are the career opportunities? And then the second half, we'll talk a little bit more specifics. We'll talk in more specifics about the SMU program and the admissions criteria and the completion criteria. I always like to explain that we're going to cover 2 separate certificates here during this information session. We have the certificate in website design and we have the certificate in graphic design offered through SMU. You can enroll in both, but you don't necessarily need to enroll in both. But we find that many people are trying to decide between the 2 or maybe have some experience in graphic design and are interested in the web, but because they're related fields, we're going to talk about both of them tonight and give you an overview as to what each of the certificates, the makeup of it and such. I'll get started by talking a little bit about the website design industry and what a certificate can do. As Michelle said, I actually started my career in website design back around 1997 and worked as a freelancer for 5 or 6 years before beginning to work more with universities like SMU here in educating others in the website design field. And I've also had a lot of experience in graphic design, which I'll talk about when we get to that. But the web design field is certainly exciting. It's changing. Gosh, the techniques that we use even today to build websites are different than what they were just 3 years ago. So if you're interested in a field that offers a lot of variety, a lot of new opportunities to learn, and is just a fast-paced professional career, a certificate opens the door to that. Now, some people ask about the difference between a degree and a certificate, and particularly in website design, the expectation is not that professionals in the industry have a degree. Certainly, that's great, but I don't have a degree in website design. In fact, when I was going through college, website design was not offered by most universities, and still isn't by many. So many professionals in the field are working with either informal training or some kind of certification that they've earned that is not necessarily a credit or degree program education. So certificates are certainly valid. And let's talk a little bit about the industry for website design. In 1995, there were only around 1,000 web design companies in the entire United States. 10 years later, that had grown to 30,000 in 2005, and then has continued to grow at an extraordinary pace. In fact, the web design industry is one of the fastest growing industries in history, with the speed at which employment in this area has grown. And certainly it's not going to continue to grow exponentially forever, but what we do see is that the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts that the web industry is going to grow by 22% over the next 10 years. And that means that for every 5 jobs, for every 100 jobs there are today, there will be 122 jobs 10 years from now in this area. So there's certainly a lot of opportunities opening up in the web industry, because so much of our communication and advertising and just business in general is shifting to the online sector. Now, we also like to point out that the field is considered a sought-after job. Wall Street Journal does this every couple of years. They rank some 200 different careers, and they rank them on factors like earning potential, the workplace environment, the opportunity for kind of new and exciting work, just a whole range of metrics. And website design, as you can see here, ranks 15th out of this 200 or 200 plus different careers. So it's certainly an interesting industry and something that a lot of people are excited about. Now, in terms of earning potential, web designers, median salary for web designers tends to be around $45,000 to $50,000 a year. That doesn't mean that that's starting salary, so certainly someone coming out of our certificate program, unless you happen to have other experience that you were able to leverage in this, might not be earning anywhere close to that. But this is the typical salary, median salary for a web designer, and someone who's been in the industry for a number of years could expect to earn even well above this. I do like to differentiate here between web designers and web developers. As you can see, I list both of the salaries. This is a web design program. And as such, what we focus on in this is the look and feel of websites. So web designers are concerned with the interface and the interaction that a visitor to a website has with that site. So they're dealing with things like how to lay out the navigation buttons on the site, the colors on the site, the fonts, the white space, as well as the interactivity, so things like pop-up menus and the way people navigate through the website. All of that would be within the sphere of what web designers produce and create. Web developers, meanwhile, are doing the back-end coding for the site. So these are people that are working with database systems and programming code like PHP or active server pages, Ruby on Rails, things like that. So they're designing kind of the functionality of websites, and they're fairly different roles and have become more differentiated as website design has become more sophisticated. But in our case, and as you can see, web developers make a little bit more money just because the work is more technical. They're more like a computer programmer than a designer. But both are fairly competitive salaries in both cases. But this is a web design program at SMU. Now, let me also talk a little bit about things you can do with a web certificate. I think a lot of people, think freelance, and that's certainly one of the career paths for someone that earns a web certificate. And again, this is what I did for several years. I find that if you're in a position where you're okay with having kind of inconsistent income, some months are great and some months not so much, but want to have control over your own schedule, to be able to choose the clients that you work with, to work on a variety of different projects, freelancing is a great option. I had a really enjoyable time doing that. But many people, are looking for something a little bit more consistent. They want a paycheck. And so you can certainly take a web certificate along with the experience you gained and earn a job in a web design firm. In this case, you'd still probably be able to work on a variety of projects, different websites, but you'd be working on a team with other people from whom you could continue to learn as you go. So many people, especially new in their career, are attracted to the idea of working in a web design firm because they get to work with more senior designers and kind of learn the techniques on the job before going out on their own, potentially. But there are also opportunities within individual organizations. So any mid-sized to large-sized or a company or nonprofit organization is likely going to be employing at least one, if not several, internal web designers to help manage that organization's site. So if you're the type of person that likes to kind of really dig into a particular project and see, for in this case, a website develop, month after month, year after year, and really shepherd that, looking for an opportunity to become a particular organization's webmaster might be a good fit. I'll also note that I've seen a number of people earn a web certificate and leverage the previous experience that they had. So if you worked in pharmaceuticals or the automotive industry or any other industry, and you take that background and then couple it with the skills the web design skills, that certainly positions you well for an opportunity to work within a company in the industry in which you already have that experience. And I'll also mention that we see a lot of people that are earning a web certificate not because they're immediately going to be getting a full-time job doing that, but because it enhances their resume. It makes them a more valuable employee. It gives them more skills that they can bring to their current employment, or if they're looking for a job, it rounds out the resume and makes them a stronger candidate for positions. So many people are using website design skills, but they're not a full-time web designer. It maybe is just part of their job. We see a lot of people in smaller businesses that fall into this category where maybe they're an office manager or an admin or a manager, supervisor, director, but they've been asked to also help update, manage the organization's website. So a web certificate certainly enhances resumes. And then lastly, we do see a number of people that are thinking about starting their own business. And it could be an online business, an e-commerce kind of site, or it could be a brick-and-mortar business that has a strong online presence, and they want to have a role in managing that online presence. So they might be outsourcing, or you might think about outsourcing part of the development of the site, but want to be able to do updates and help to manage that business's website. So these are, I'm sure there are others, but these are 5 of the reasons that we see people coming to earn a web certificate, and 5 of the directions that you could go with a web certificate. And on that note, let's turn our attention and talk a little bit about graphic design. Now, this is an industry that's been around for much, much longer than website design. In fact, graphic design dates back hundreds of years, ever since the printing press, and people started to design the look of materials they were producing en masse. But in the last, really, 30 years or so, it's just exploded because of the explosion in personal computing and software that allows us to produce amazing visual effects in all sorts of products and documents. So the industry, the graphic design industry, isn't growing quite as fast as the website design, but it is still growing. And what's impressive about that is that this is not a new industry like website design is. This is a well-established industry, but because graphic design is becoming such just a more and more important aspect of what businesses are doing with visual communication, the industry is expected to experience solid growth, and this data comes from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And I'll just mention that the kinds of things that graphic designers produce are just all over the place. I mean, everything from book covers to digital billboards. Graphic designers are no longer producing most of their work on paper nowadays. A lot of the graphic design work that's taking place is actually being displayed digitally. You'll see things like reviews, or this is a kind of an annual review, an annual report. Website designs. Many organizations will hire a graphic designer or have a graphic designer do an initial mock-up of a website design, just because graphic designers tend to be so well versed in color and typography, fonts, and white space, and kind of laying things out visually in an attractive way, that very often graphic designers are involved in some capacity with website design. Of course, they can design logos, product packaging, and of course the more traditional things like brochures. And I've done everything from in paper, from course catalogs to postcards to business cards to letterhead on 8.5 by 11 sheets to trifold brochures like this, and even more complex documents. So there's just all kinds of opportunities to apply graphic design skills in creating different types of products. Now, the kinds of things that graphic designers are doing, first you can see down the right side here, these are logos for some of the Adobe Creative Suite products that graphic designers often use: Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign, and Acrobat. And these are the 4 software packages that the certificate here at Southern Methodist University focuses on. So you'd have hands-on experience with all 4 of those in the certificate, and certainly the Adobe Creative Suite is the industry leader, kind of the industry standard for graphic designers. So graphic designers are often doing things like manipulating digital photography. They might be producing line art or vector graphic illustrations from scratch, anything like a logo or something like that. They're doing all kinds of interesting layout techniques and trying to fit calls to action and messaging and imagery into kind of whatever space they're working with. They're working with colors and understanding how to blend, an organization's colors with others to produce, emotions and kinds of responses from people that are seeing the work. Working with typography, and of course, working with professional printers. So when you are producing a physical product, whether it's product packaging or some sort of paper, postcard or brochure, there's the work involved with coordinating with the print shop that's going to be producing that piece to make sure that it comes out correctly. And there's a lot of information around doing that right. I remember the first full-page ad that I ever produced for an organization came out, and the colors were wrong, and it was because I had used an RGB instead of a CMYK color space in the image, and so it looked faded and bleached, and it was incredibly embarrassing. And we want to make sure that as you begin your careers, that you know about this stuff, and you know how to work with professional print shops and what they expect, and how to kind of package up whatever you produce so that the end result that comes out from them is what you expect. Median salaries for graphic designers are in the same range as web designers, $40,000 to $50,000, kind of a median salary in the Dallas-Plano area. Senior designers, which would be managers, or solo designers, which might be freelancers, tend to earn a bit more. Of course, freelancers also have to cover a lot of their own costs, like the software and health insurance and such. But senior and solo designers do tend to earn a bit more, but very competitive compensation for graphic designers. So now let's take a moment and talk a bit about earning your certificate at SMU. So the program at SMU, let me talk about each of these two certificates and kind of some of the things that they have in common first. And I'll share with you four differentiators, four things that we think really differentiate the program. The first thing, obviously, is SMU. So it's a non-credit certificate, but this is a graded certificate. And what that means is that when you earn this certificate and enter the workplace, employers know that you're coming from Southern Methodist University, and they know that the education you've gotten by attending a program at SMU really means something. So, you'll be doing assignments during this project. You'll be doing homework, particularly during, we'll talk about the capstone project in this. There are exams that correlate with each of the courses. So when you earn this certificate and add the certification to your resume, go out there, people understand that by completing a program at Southern Methodist University, that you came into it with the right spirit, that you're taking it seriously, and that you're really preparing for a strong career. And that's just what SMU stands for. The second thing I'll mention are our instructors. We're very proud of the instructors that we have in these programs. They go through a fairly grueling selection process. You can see here they submit their application, we review it. If everything looks good and they have experience not only in their subject area but also experience teaching, then we may bring them in for an interview. If that interview goes well and we ask them questions about their teaching philosophy and their experience, and we kind of gauge their background, then they do a teaching demonstration. So we want to see them in a real-world type environment, show us that they can actually teach and be engaging and all of that. And then if all of that goes well and they come on board as an instructor, there's ongoing evaluation. Students in each of our classes have the opportunity to give feedback on the instructors, and by and large, it's very positive. And the things we look for, our selection criteria, first of all, they have to have technical expertise. They've got to have expertise in their area. So if they're teaching in website design, they've got to know HTML and cascading style sheets, Dreamweaver, Photoshop. They've got to know their stuff. But beyond that, we want to see real-world experience. We want to see that they've been out there working on projects with clients, that they can produce professional quality results in the area that they're working. And then lastly, we want to see that they have a great delivery in the classroom. And as Michelle said, some of our classes are online and some are in the class. This is a blended learning program, and so it means different things to have an engaging course online than it does in the classroom. But in whatever realm our instructors are going to teach, we want to make sure that it's fun, that it's an enjoyable experience students go through, because we know that when we're enjoying learning, we learn better, we retain more information. And so we look for instructors that are not only experts in their field, but have real-world experience working on projects that they can share with you and create an enjoyable and rewarding classroom experience. The third thing I'll mention are those instructors. Well, I'm sorry, and so there's just a couple examples of those instructors. As you can see, Kim Bauer and A.J. Woods are two of the instructors we're very proud to have on board. Kim's been working as a web designer for over 12 years. She's worked with some fantastic brands, as you can see there. AJ was ranked the #1 Adobe certified instructor in the world, not once, but 2 times, 2 years, and he's the acting chapter leader for the Dallas, both the Acrobat and the InDesign user groups in Dallas. There are many other instructors that teach in the program, but these are the types of instructors that you'll have if you enroll in the program. The next thing I'll talk about is the approach that we took in designing the curriculum. Now, in most web or graphic design certificates, there's going to be a focus on the creative. So this is the color theory, the typography, the making it look good, making it engaging, whatever you're creating. And then there's also the technical. So whether that's website design and learning HTML and CSS, or whether that's on the graphic design side and learning the intricacies of how to package up Adobe InDesign documents through Adobe Acrobat to send off to a printer. These are both very important in education to become a professional web designer or a professional graphic designer. But that's where a lot of programs stop. And what we felt like is that just knowing how to create beautiful, attractive work and having that technical background isn't always enough to make someone successful. In fact, what I find is that in many cases when projects fail or projects go over budget or aren't completed on time, it's often because of a lack of project management or a lack of client management. And by the way, I use the term client loosely. If you work for an organization as a webmaster, for example, then that organization is your client. And obviously freelancers work with a variety of clients. But being able to understand how to design a project to get to the end result that you're trying to achieve, and in some cases manage multiple resources, during that process of various people that you're depending upon, that's every bit as important in delivering world-class results as is the understanding of the creative and the technical. So you'll get a bit of project management and a bit of client management throughout the program, and as you'll see in the capstone project, which I'll talk about next, gives you kind of the opportunity to work through a real-world type project and deliver specific milestones and at various points through that project. Then the last thing that we bring to the certificates is an understanding of what the industry trends are, because neither of these industries are standing still. Certainly the web design industry is still changing rapidly. Things like content management systems and the integration of customer relationship management forms, CRM systems, and search engine optimization, just all kinds of things are constantly changing in the web design field. And the graphic design field is changing as well. Adobe comes out with new versions of the Creative Suite every 12 to 18 months that open up new capabilities and new techniques. And so one of the things that our fantastic instructors bring to this program is an understanding of where these trends are going and helping our students to prepare so that when they get out there and are entering the workforce, that they know what the shifts are that are coming and that they're aware of the technology shifts and the trends that are going to be affecting them throughout their career. And then the last thing I'll mention as a differentiator is our capstone project. What you see here coming up on the screen are a variety of websites designed by students. So the capstone in both the web design and the graphic design certificate gives you the opportunity to create a real-world project during a 10-week supervised tutorial. So you choose your own project. These, of course, were all examples of web design students and things they've done. I'll show you on the next slide. These are some examples of products created by graphic design students. So there's some postcards. You'll see some letterhead, business cards. This is a digital a digital billboard, a postcard, a business card. So in the web and graphic design capstone, you have the opportunity to produce either a website from scratch through completion in the web design project, or a visual identity, sort of a visual graphical identity for an organization in the graphic design capstone. Both of them are 10 weeks long. In both cases, you're going to be overseen by one of our instructors who guides you through the process. There's homework that you'll be completing all along the way, but the idea is to kind of mimic a real-world scenario where you're having to produce deliverables on a weekly basis to a client. In this case, your client is your instructor, toward this end product of either launching a website or having a fully built-out visual identity. And so the process here is the instructor acts as kind of a mentor, giving you feedback along the way and helping you apply those skills that you've learned in the classroom work that you've done. So the capstone project comes at the end of the certificate. You'll complete all of your coursework, and then you'll go through this capstone. But at the end of it, if you're in the web certificate program, you've got a website. You've got a portfolio piece that you could show to potential employers or potential clients as freelancer that says, you know, look, I can do this. I didn't just go through classes, but I've actually built one of these. And that gives you a real advantage. And on the graphic design side, you'll again have kind of a set of portfolio pieces that you can show to potential clients or potential employers that demonstrate that not only did you earn your certificate, but that you can apply that knowledge and actually produce professional quality pieces. So setting the program apart, the SMU quality of the program, the instructors in our program, the multifaceted approach that we take, and then the capstone project at the end. Just 4 things that we really think make this program fantastic. Now let me talk in some more detail about each of the 2 certificates and how they're made up. For the website design certificate, there are 4 courses to complete, and then an exam that goes along with each of those 4 courses. So as you can see, the courses are starting and running a successful website, and that's an online course. So this is the course, I've always called this everything you wanted to know about websites but didn't know who to ask. So it goes over things like, how do you get a domain name for your website, you know, at www.whatever.com. How do you get a hosting plan, and how do you choose the right hosting plan? Do you go with GoDaddy or some other company? If you're thinking about e-commerce for a website, how do you decide what kind of e-commerce system to implement and what options are there out there? Or even once you've launched your website, how do you make sure that that website starts to show up on search engines? So these are all things that are sort of outside of the software and the technology like HTML and CSS, but are really critical to launching a successful site. So that's the first course, and then there's a course on Dreamweaver, which is the industry-leading software for creating professional websites. There's a course in which we cover HTML and cascading style sheets, which are the 2 core languages used in website design. And there's a course on creating web graphics, which uses Photoshop and a little bit of Illustrator as well. And in that course, you'd learn how to create things like buttons or how to prep digital camera images to go onto a web page, how to design navigation bars, and even mock up an entire web template. So those 4 courses and then the 4 exams that go along with them are the core coursework for this certificate. And then, of course, after completing those courses, there's the 10-week certificate capstone at the end in which you'll be creating a professional website. Once you've completed the coursework, the exams, and the capstone, you've earned your certificate. The graphic design certificate is very similar. The only real structural difference is that in graphic design there are 5 courses instead of 4, but a couple of the courses are shorter, so it ends up being just about the same total amount of of hours of classroom time. The Introduction to Graphic Design course is where we cover things like typography, color theory, page layout, how to kind of organize information and messaging on, in different visual mediums to communicate ideas. So this is sort of the Graphic Design 101 to kind of teach you all those foundational skills. And then the other 4 courses cover the 4 software pieces from the Adobe Creative Suite that are used most commonly by graphic designers. So there's a course on Adobe Acrobat, which of course is used to package up pieces that have been designed. There's a course on Photoshop and how to use Photoshop to produce print graphics or kind of non-web graphics. There's a course on Adobe InDesign, which is used to create multi-page documents, so anything like a catalog or an annual review or something like that would be produced in InDesign. And there's Adobe Illustrator, which is used to create vector graphics as well as single-page items. So a lot of people will design postcards or business cards, things like that, in Adobe Illustrator. So those are the 5 courses. And just like with the web certificate, there are 5 exams that correspond to each of those courses. Once you've completed the coursework and the exams, then the only thing that's left is the 10-week capstone, which you're creating a visual identity for an organization. And by the way, I don't know that I mentioned this, but the visual identity, you get to choose your own project. And it's the same in website design. So you could choose to do a fictional company that you just make up. You could create this for yourself, so either a website or a visual identity for maybe your own freelance work if you choose, or you could choose to work with maybe a nonprofit organization or a neighborhood association that maybe has need of some of these items. And that's really up to you to choose that project. So it can be a real-world project if that's what you'd like to do. But that's the structure of the certificates and the requirements. I thought I'd also just mention and show you a quick shot of the SMUlearn.com interface. This is where you'd be logging in to complete your examinations for each of the courses. It's also where you'd log in to see your homework during the capstone project and that sort of thing. And once you enroll in the program, we'll provide you with a username, password. You'll have access to all of your course information through this site. So, cover a few of the details of the program. All of that coursework, there's over 96 hours of hands-on, instructor-led education in this program, and that doesn't include the time that you will likely be studying outside of class or working on your capstone project outside of class. So it's a pretty intensive and thorough program. You can earn your certificate in as little as 7 to 9 months. Some people take more like 9 to 10 months to complete it. A lot of it just has to do with your scheduling and your availability and whether that matches up with when courses are offered. So courses are offered on a rolling basis. As Michelle said, each sort of trimester, we try to offer each of the courses, well, we offer them at least once and most of them a couple of times. So most students can complete the certificate in somewhere like 7 to 9 months. Evening, daytime, and Saturday classes. So we offer classes at varying times. The evening classes typically meet a couple of times a week, maybe a Monday and a Wednesday or a Tuesday and a Thursday. And then the weekday and Saturday classes would meet all day with an hour break for lunch in the middle. Entrance requirements for the program. In order to enroll in this program, we need to see that either you have an undergraduate degree or have 4 years of professional work experience. And as you can see here, if you have questions about that or want to make sure that you meet those criteria, you can certainly talk with Michelle or one of our other program advisors. But the purpose of this is not to turn people away, but it's to make sure that you're going to be competitive in the workplace when you earn the certificate. So if you have an undergraduate degree and you put on top of that a certificate in website design or a certificate in graphic design, that makes you very employable. If you've got several years of experience in a workplace and then you earn the certificate, you're very competitive. We just want to make sure that we're setting everyone up for success once they complete the certificates. The completion requirements. So in order to earn the certificate, we need to make sure that you've scored a 75% or better on each of the exams and score at least a 70% overall grade on your capstone project. Now, I mentioned in the capstone, there's homework each week and there's the final project at the end, and the overall grade for that capstone between the homework and the project needs to be a 70% or better. People often ask me if what happens if I don't pass the exam or complete the capstone project. Well, first, for each exam, you've got 2 chances to take the exam. So if you didn't pass the first time, what we want to see is that you go back, spend a few days studying, go through your notes, go through the textbooks again, and then try the exam a second time. If you don't complete the exam the second time, then we would ask that you come back and sit back through the class again, just to make sure that that it all makes sense to you and that you've retained the information. And with the capstone, if you don't score the 70% or better, then what we ask is that you take the feedback that you get from the capstone review of your project and you go away and on your own, you would be working on that and you'd make improvements to it and then you'd resubmit that project after addressing any of the concerns that might have come up during the review. So, our goal here is for everyone to be able to complete the certificate. We're not looking to fail people out, but we do need to make sure that in handing out a certificate from Southern Methodist University that you can go out and represent the university and produce professional quality work. As a graduate, you can see a few of our recent graduates here. You get, of course, all of the hands-on experience and skills you earn during the program. You also receive an SMU certificate. You can see these people holding theirs very proudly. You have your portfolio piece. So you've got either your website or your graphic design visual identity that become part of your professional portfolio. And then lastly, you'll develop a network of peers. And going through classes with people, you'll develop relationships with those other students that may carry through your entire career. So when you get out in the real world and start working on projects, chances are you'll have these relationships with either students or maybe even some of the instructors in the program that you can continue to rely upon as you get out and start working on real-world projects. And I thought I'd just throw up a quick quote from one of our recent graduates from the graphic design certificate. Obviously, Keith was very pleased with the program, insight, advice, and experience. I think he had a very good experience with the instructors in the program and is now a graduate. So what constitutes the program? The tuition for our program, $3,690, and that covers all of your course enrollments, all of the textbooks and course materials for those courses. So each course has its own courseware. Your access to computer and software that you'd be using during the in-class sessions. So when you're taking courses on Photoshop or InDesign or Dreamweaver, we provide the computers and the software in a computer lab environment. Includes access to the online testing center. The capstone project is included in that cost, and your certificate upon graduation. So there's no hidden fees or book fees outside of this cost. In terms of financing your education, Students that pay in full up front, there's an 18% discount that SMU offers, but then there's also the opportunity to pay kind of on a course-by-course basis as you complete them. I think there's a $200 application fee to enroll in the program, and then it would just be on a course-by-course basis. You would enroll and pay for each course as you take it. We do have a relationship with Sallie Mae, and Sallie Mae specifically offers loans for continuing education students because most of the federal financial aid programs like FAFSA only apply to degree programs, credit courses. So since this is a non-credit certificate, most of those don't apply, but Sallie Mae does offer continuing education loans, and we can certainly help with your application for that. Information about that is on the website, I know, but happy to help. And then some people we find work with their credit or take out an educational loan through their banking institution to pay for the program. And Michelle is a great resource, I know, for more information about anything related to financing your certificate. So with that, if you have questions, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but there is a spot on your interface where you should be able to type in a question if you have one as we're starting to wrap up my presentation. We've got about 10 minutes left, and Michelle and I are going to leave some time here at the end for your question. So if you have a question, you can just type it in to the question interface there on your GoToWebinar screen, and we'll address as many of those as we can. If there's a question we're not able to get to, we'll certainly make sure to follow up with you after the webinar and get your question answered. As you can see here, though, as we're giving you a chance to add some questions, this is the direct office line for Michelle, as well as her email address. If you have any questions about enrolling in the program or anything related to that, Michelle is a great resource for you. You can also see that the website addresses for each of the two programs here, and there's great information out there about these two industries, when the upcoming courses are scheduled for, as well as more details about the particular certificates and each of the courses in the certificates. So you're welcome to visit those two addresses. So let's see, Michelle, I'm going to toss back to you. Did you have anything to add?
Just that I wanted to let everyone know that I will be reaching out to each of you over the course of the next few days, mainly to see if you had any unanswered questions and then see how we can help you through the enrollment process and guide you through any of the financial assistance that you may need to investigate and apply for. We are recording this session, and you will receive a recording of this session as well as some additional information about the courses and the course schedule in an email, again, over the course of the next couple days. And basically, I just look forward to talking with each of you and seeing how we can get you into the program. And if you start now, within the next couple of weeks, you should be able to complete it by the end of July, which is very exciting because then you can roll into summer and fall, looking forward to applying your new skills.
Fantastic. Well, let's see. I'll answer a couple of questions here. Let's see. Keith asks, can I do both of these certificates at once? And the answer is yes. It certainly is, is double the work. There's a little bit of overlap in learning of Adobe Photoshop because that's in both of the certificates. But we have had students that have enrolled in both certificates and have taken their coursework and completed both certificates in, gosh, 9-10 months. So you certainly can do that. Let's see. We also, Abbas asks, is it possible to take just one class out of the certificate program and then take classes as I can? And yes, you can. So these classes are available as open enrollment classes. So if you're not enrolled in the official certificate, you can still take an individual class if you wanted, just a course on Illustrator or just a course on Dreamweaver, Adobe Photoshop. Those are available. So certainly. And let's see, I just got one from Sarah who asks about job placement after completion of the program. We do not guarantee placement, and we don't particularly have placements for students coming out of the program. What we do though is we have a LinkedIn forum. Am I right about this, Michelle? There's a LinkedIn forum where students where we would post any jobs openings that we become aware of, or internships, or various things like that, and just updates in the industry for graduates. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. You'll once you graduate, you will be enrolled in the LinkedIn site and invited to participate in it. And we do receive inquiries of our students from SMU for internships, paid internships, and positions available within companies around the Dallas area.
Great. And let's see, Sarah also asked, does the order you take the classes matter? At this point, there are no prerequisites for any of the courses, except that we want to make sure you've completed all of your coursework before you enroll in the capstone. But you can take, say, in the web design certificate, if it just worked out with your schedule, that you were able to take the HTML course before the starting and running a successful website course, that would be fine. If you ended up taking the Dreamweaver course before the HTML and Cascading Style Sheets course, that would also be fine. Students have for years asked me in what order they should take courses in, and I really have mixed feelings about it, because I feel like whatever you take first will help with the other courses you take, but there really isn't a strong order that you need to take them in order to have the right educational experience. And the same thing with the graphic design certificate. Certainly the introduction to graphic design is a good place to start, but if it worked out with your schedule that you could take the InDesign course or the Illustrator course before that, it wouldn't hurt your ability to learn in any of those courses. Let's see, what are the next few classes coming up? See, for graphic design. All of the class dates coming up are available on the website that you see here. I couldn't even begin to articulate dates for each of the courses, because we offer most of these multiple times every 3 or 4 months. But if you want to see when courses are offered, or if they're offered, at the time that's convenient for you, say evenings or weekends, check the website for that information, or reach out to Michelle, who can help you with that. Let's see. One last question. I don't know the answer to this. Pell Grant money, Michelle? Do you?
Yeah, that's traditional financial aid for degree, for credit-bearing courses such as degree side of the house. So
Gotcha.
No, that's not, that money is not available for continuing education programs.
Very good. Well, I think that's about it. I want to take a moment and just thank everyone. If anyone has other questions, feel free to reach out to Michelle. And I think, as she said, she will be reaching out to you guys just with a follow-up to this. And such in the next few days. But I wanted to just thank everyone for attending tonight. I hope this answered at least many of your questions about the program, and gave you lots to think about in both of these certificate areas. As someone who's been doing both web and graphic design for about a decade and a half now, it's I still love it. It's fun. It's exciting. It's one of the best parts of my job. to work with these technologies and design things. So I hope you really consider these programs, and I hope we see you in class. Michelle?
Same here. Thank you for attending, and I'll be speaking with as many of you as I can over the course of the next few days.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you in class.